in talking with the community group, that was probably two of the most profound interviews that I've ever engaged in, because there were two words that continued to emerge from those interviews. The first word was personalization. The second word was individualization. In other words, the African American community group believed holistically that the school district has not personalized the learning experience for African American children. When I say personalized, that means getting to know African American students as a group, but also getting to know African American students as individuals, and then developing prescribed plans that meet the individual and holistic needs of our African American kids. When I talk about individualization, it's along the same lines of personalization. The only difference is the African American community group believe that we as school officials in Huntsville ISD must do a more proficient job and a more consistent job of making African American students feel as though that they individually and holistically belong in Huntsville schools.
Amen.
That interview led to the second interview with the African American community group. And this interview talked mostly about expectations. Now, when you think about expectations, we often talk about saying, I expect, you should expect, we will expect, but this was a whole different perspective on expectations. I love this interview because each of the community members talked about how they personally set examples, not just for their own African American children, but for African American children in general. And they also challenged the school officials and African American parents and the community at large with maintaining high expectations for African American children. Now, in setting and maintaining high expectations for African American children, the crux and the premise is very simple. You do not let children set their expectations for themselves. We as caring officials, we as caring adults, we know better. And because we know better, we must do better with our African American kids. And we must help them understand that being a student athlete, the most important part is being a student first and an athlete second. And as a result, we must continue to raise the bar and set high expectations. And also, another thing that I like about this group is that they emphasize that this is not about what our African American children like in terms of whether they like studying, in terms of whether they like going to bed on time, in terms of whether they like respecting officials. This is about what they must do, and that they're going to be held to those expectations regardless. And also, this community group also wanted the school officials to understand that it's not about your race as a school official. It is not about your years of experience. It's about your ability to have the audacity and the capacity to maintain high expectations. Not that high. To maintain high expectations for our African American children. I was then able to spend some time with the Caucasian American teacher group, and these were the finest teachers, Caucasian American teachers in the school district. And we basically started this interview with them by asking one question. What are you doing to impact African American kids? What are you doing to empower African American kids to believe that when they come into your classrooms, they can succeed and they can exceed all expectations? And the basic premise from this interview is that...
I got this on now. Now, this one goes with the TV, so this one you've got to keep up on your belt.
Hold this one.
Sorry.
Thank you. Can everybody?
You got it. Yes.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
I do have a big mouth though. Back to the mic. Okay. And talking with the white teachers is very simple. They did not allow African American students to use race as an issue in whether or not they would do their work in the classroom. They believe that African American students are just as bright as white students and Hispanic students. But here's the clincher. They made it a point to personally and individually show every African American student that you will succeed in my classroom, and also failure is not an option. They gave example after example of how they were able to reach African American students because they had a very clear understanding of how black culture impacts African American students. In other words, whereas other people may look at black kids as being loud, these teachers understood that for a lot of African American kids, they're just being expressive. And they're trying to express their way of belonging in the classroom and in the school. And these teachers were very skilled and very adept at letting African American students know that I understand your culture, but I'm also going to help you understand that the culture of the school is that you will learn and you will succeed. And again, failure is not an option. Last but not least, I spent about 4 or 5 hours with the African American high school students at the high school. I talked with 2 groups. I talked with African American students who did not get in trouble, and I talked with African American students who did get in trouble. And the common theme among both groups is very simple. I asked them, I said, do you need a black teacher to be successful? That's the first question I asked them. All of them said no. They said, we need teachers who care. We need teachers who respect us. We need teachers to show us and teach us. And most importantly, we need teachers who are willing to get to know us as individuals. Now, this was a very important interview because a lot of what I learned from the African American students, I will most definitely use, not only in training teachers here in Huntsville, but since traveling across the state, I have been using that dialogue to help teachers better understand that African American students have a voice and you cannot overlook that voice and try to teach them. Another thing that the African American children said that I was really impressed with is that when it comes to teachers, they don't need teachers to be their friends. They need teachers to be teachers. They do not want friendships from teachers. They want relationships. Now, there's a difference between a friendship and a relationship. The basic difference is that a friendship is loosely structured. There are really no set expectations. In a relationship, there are set expectations on both sides. And what these kids are telling me is that we respect teachers who come to the classroom and not only teach, but help us understand why we must learn, how we must learn, and that you will learn. Failure, again, is not an option. I think one of the most important comments I heard from one of the students is that if I'm in a teacher's classroom who I know cares about me, I will work my butt off to do what that teacher asks me to do. But if I'm in a teacher's classroom who does not teach, that was very critical to a student, who does not teach, who does not care enough to teach, and who does not care enough to get to know me as an individual, then I'm not going to make any effort, listen to me carefully, to do their work. Remember, if you have a relationship with African American kids, your work becomes their work. If the kids perceive that you don't care about them, then that's your work. It's not their work. As one kid said, that's your work, not my work. So, in summarizing all these groups, there's one point that continues to reoccur to me as I think about what is the most important thing that I gathered from talking with these different community groups. I talk with African American employees, I talk with African American community members, I talk with white teachers, I also talk with African American students. The main point is this: African American kids can learn. I'm going to say it again. African American kids can learn. I'm a prime example of what an African American child can do. The most important point is, from both the school and the community and in the home, they need support, they need personalization, they need individualization, they need high expectations. And they need people who will tell them no. You will do your work. You will listen to me. Now, for teachers, we have to understand that yes, a lot of African American kids come from broken homes, but it doesn't mean that they have to have a broken spirit. And the teacher can play a critical role in lifting our kids up. For the community, we have to understand that it still takes a village to raise our children. So if you see an African American child is doing something wrong, do not worry about what the parent will say if that child is doing something wrong. Tell the child he's wrong and help him or her. That's what works for us. Now, there are a lot of things that have changed throughout time. But the one thing that shouldn't change is that children are children and they must be treated and taught to be children. And they will live up to that. Another point we have to understand from these interviews is that African American children cannot rise to low expectations. So it is our job as teachers, as principals, as parents, as professors, and as community members to set the bar high and keep it high. And not let African American kids off the hook. That's right. So with that being said, that's what I've learned. And we're going to now move on to where we're headed to.
A couple more pictures.
Oh, okay.
I had some great pictures of the kids.
Okay. Yes.
I think one thing critical that came out of our meeting.
Yes, sir.
Is that all too often kids in general, but specifically African American kids, do not have a good support system at home.
Right.
But that cannot be used as an excuse. They have to be dealt with where they are, and that is at school. So every effort has to be made at school to help facilitate the kinds of things that you just explained.
Yes, I agree. And that definitely emerged from that community group in saying that our kids may not come from the best situations. And another thing that emerged from that while we're on it, there's this misconception in research, I hear it all the time, I read it all the time, that African American parents, because they have a lack of involvement and come out to school, they don't care about their children. Let me clear this misconception tonight. Black parents care about their children. Now, they may not have the same education as me as professors, but they love their kids. That's the point that also emerged in the interview. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Speaking as a parent, I wonder if a lot of parents don't come out due to comfort level. I'm somewhat educated, but I know at times when I've had to speak about my own children in HISD, I no longer feel like I'm being talked to, I feel like I'm being talked at. And for someone who's not educated to come and want to sit and hold conference with someone who's talking at you, they're not going to do that. There's still many African Americans who are intimidated by holding a personal one-on-one conversation about serious matters with Caucasians. It's a fact. I've had them tell me that. So for me, knowing that I have no problem in my comfort level speaking to Caucasians, feeling like I'm being talked at about my child, I know that they are not going to want to make the effort to get a ride or whatever they have to do to get to that school so they can be talked at a level they're not going to comprehend and where you feel like the person basically doesn't care what you're saying at all. Anyway.
That's a very good point, and we're now moving on to the open mic, where we're going to now allow you as a community to come up and share some of your experiences so that we can use that to incorporate that into working not only with you as parents and community members, but also ensuring that our teachers understand that these are the issues. And again, everything that we do, this is not about what we could, should, or would do. This is about what we better do, what we must do, what we have to do, and what we need to do. And this is a very critical piece. So what we're going to ask you to do, all of you should have a survey as African American parents. And I am asking and pleading that as we go through the open mic portion of tonight, please, please, please complete this survey. Because what we're going to do is we're going to use those surveys to develop more strategies. Remember, everybody plays a part. We're going to use your ideas. You matter. Your voice matters. That's why we work together to develop the survey. Myself, Ms. Maroney, and the African American Community Group, an employee group, to develop this survey to get your input, to give you a voice. We want to give you an oral voice and a written voice to help us understand what we must do to not only keep you involved in the schools, but also help our teachers to better reach our children. So we're going to move on to the open forum portion. And in this portion, I'm going to ask a couple of questions. We're then going to allow you to come up to address those questions in your own way. Say what you feel, shoot straight, and as kids say, keep it real. Okay, the first question that we're going to ask, and we would like some volunteers to come up, is how do you, and the questions are on the actual program, how do you, let me back up and let you help you understand why we're asking this question. Last week I was very, very, very privileged. It was probably one of the most defining moments of my career to speak at the YMCA about Martin Luther King blueprint speech. And I went back and read Dr. King's speech to prepare for my speech. And one of the things that Dr. King challenged a group of African American students in 1967 to do is to develop a blueprint for what they're going to do to be successful in life. So I want you to look at this portion of the program, the entire program in its entirety, as our blueprint as a community for helping African American students. Everything you write, everything you say, everything you express, we know you're going to express it in love, and we're going to respect it on that level. But keep in mind that everything you say and express, this is the new blueprint. Can everyone say blueprint? Blueprint. Because if we don't have a blueprint, then we will have a misprint in what we need to do and help our kids. So, with that being said, I'm going to move on to the first question. The first question is very simple, but it's very complex. How do you, as African American parents, define parental involvement? I'll ask you again. How do you, as African American parents, define parental involvement? We need a volunteer to come up and speak on that issue. What is your perception of parental involvement? How do you define parental involvement? What is parental involvement to you as an African American parent? Not just as a parent, but as an African American parent. How do you define parental involvement? What is it? What is it not? How do you feel about it? We need to know. We must know.